Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, Mindset Elevation Coach, Intentional Living Guide, and the creatrix and publisher behind Aspire Magazine, the beloved inspirational personal development magazine for women since 2006. If you haven't grabbed your free subscription, get on over to subscribe2aspire.com. Not only will you get 6 digital issues every year, you'll also have access to our sacred archives and a treasure trove of transformational free gifts from our supporters and advertisers. So again, subscribe2aspire.com. So today I'm really excited about the conversation because it's about angels, and that is one of my most special topics to talk about. I have this conversation all the time with my grandchildren. And if you want to know how to bring your guardian angels into your daily life, then this is the episode for you. Angel numbers, daily angelic tasks, and altar work make up the many ways that today's guest, Leeza Robertson, infuses angelic energy into her day-to-day routine. Leeza is a simple girl from the Aussie Bush who one day found 12 angels in a kitchen, and I can't wait to hear that story. She is an internationally renowned author with over 10 publications under her belt. You might know her from the divine practice of angel numbers, or a year of angel guidance, or perhaps you own one of her fabulous tarot decks. In her spare time, you can find her shopping at farmers markets and strolling along the beach. Welcome, Leeza.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to love this conversation. I love your books. I've shared your wisdom in Aspire Magazine. I'm so, and in our top 10 book list. And so to have this conversation with you and bring more awareness that we're always divinely supported, aren't we?
Yes, we are, even if we're resistant, reluctant, or don't believe it.
I want to go back. Because now I have to know is the day you found 12 angels in your kitchen. So is that the day that began your deep connection to the angels?
That's the day I thought I was having a psychotic breakdown. I don't know about my deep connection to the angels. It was definitely something that wasn't expected. I had not been asking to have any connection with anything in particular. I was still very much in the infancy of what I guess most people call their spiritual journey. So yeah, for me at the time that it happened, I wasn't thinking this was some great sign from above. I actually thought I was just losing my mind.
So what happened? Tell us about that moment. You could physically see him. So that's like clairvoyant, correct? Or is that a completely different description?
I don't really get into the clairs too much, but yes, I physically see vibrational energy as if it's a real person. I've always been able to do that. I didn't know I was able to do it, but once I knew what it was, it explained an awful lot from the past. But yeah, so like I walked into my kitchen, I had been meditating, and I came to start to prepare lunch. And there were 12 people in my kitchen, and you don't expect to find people in your house if you're there alone. So I did what most people did, was like, I quickly ducked back into the hallway and was like, oh my God, how did 12 people get into my house? And I peeked around the corner again, and I was like, and why are they making sandwiches? And then I peeked around one more time, and I did notice a light, like a very unusual light glowing around them. And so I came back and I came back to the hallway again. I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm hallucinating, and maybe this is it. Maybe my trauma's caught up with me and I've finally lost my mind. And at that point, Archangel Uriel poked his head around the corner and said, oh, by the way, we might need to talk. And that was kind of how that interaction went.
Oh my God. So from that, like in that moment, could you identify the 12 angels, or you weren't at that part of your spiritual development, or was it just a knowing of who they were? Like, how did that part work?
Well, they introduced themselves, so that helped.
Oh, it was so from that moment, is that what really set you off on the journey to learn and connect with them on a deeper level and call them into your life, and then led to the work that you're doing in the world?
Absolutely not. I rejected everything. I think I used to describe myself as the reluctant angel person because I would have all these experiences and I really didn't want any of them. I don't come from a spiritual background. I come from an academic background, and the spiritual, the new age, and the woo woo was just a little too much for me. So it did actually take me quite a long time before I became comfortable with that. So it was probably another 5 to 7 years before I really got comfortable with saying, yeah, I've got some invisible friends and they're angels.
Oh, I love this story. And so what led you to the path of authorship? Because you have 10 books, you have the tarot decks. Was it trusting in that relationship that you just organically knew, or did they guide you to write these books?
So the angel books came much later in my publishing career. I should point that out. And I started with tarot, and I pretty much accidentally landed in publishing. It wasn't something that I set out to do. And in fact, I thought I would have to do a lot more training, sharpen my skills a lot more, and, prep for a couple of years. And I met Barbara Moore, and she had been doing some private tuition work with me over some stuff, and we just got to talking. She proposed the idea, and then it kind of just went from there. But the angel book came a lot later. So the first angel book, the angel numbers book, I think that I wrote that in 2019, 2020, so it wasn't that long ago. It took me a little while to admit that maybe this was something I wanted to go into, because I knew that if I put this book in the world through traditional publishing, that I was probably going to have to commit to writing several books with the angels. And I wanted to make sure that I was in a space, both mentally and emotionally, where I was able to own that and go deeper with the work with the angels. So it was a progression, because I am very reluctant when it comes to the angelic work, because I feel like there's a lot of preconceived ideas about working with angels, and there's a lot of preset bias inside the new age and spiritual community. So I'm always a little tentative when I write these sorts of books.
See, and it's so funny because I'm the opposite. I'm so drawn. Like I taught my granddaughter, you have a divine support team around you at all times, and they'll tell you who they are. But for her, when she was 3, and they moved to a new house, it's like I taught her how to call in Archangel Michael, because as a toddler, you're like, where am I? And what's this strange bedroom? And what's this strange house? And I remember teaching her that. She's going to be 12. And when she said when she's stressed out, she still calls Archangel Michael 4 corners of the yard, 4 corners of the house, 4 corners of a bedroom, 4 corners of a bed, and puts this big bubble of protection around her. But now she'll say, In fact, I think she was 4. She was piddling on the toilet, and I was in there, and she asked me to bend down, and she's very seriously, Leeza. I put my forehead on her forehead, and she said, "I saw Archangel Michael." And I said, "Oh, you did?" She goes, "He had the most beautiful blonde hair." Where she got this, I don't know. Big wings, and his sword, he was so powerful. I felt the whoosh of the sword. And in her heart, I knew she saw him in whatever identity she had created for him. And that's when I said, you know what, if she goes through her life knowing that there's a divine support team, whatever she calls it, then that's a blessing. I think we need more of that in the world. So I'm drawn to your books. I'm drawn to your message. I'm an angel number freak. So, I have questions for you. So why don't we take our first break, Leeza, so we can come right back and dive in. I am with Leeza Robertson of LeezaRobertsonWrites.com, and we'll be back in a moment, my friends.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation, and let's magnetize and monetize.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Leeza Robertson, author of numerous books, including The Divine Practice of Angel Numbers and A Year of Angel Guidance. So, Leeza, why angel numbers? Like, is that how they communicate with us? Like, I'd love to hear your insights and thoughts.
For me, the angel numbers was a very low resistant barrier for communication with the angels. So as I said at the beginning of this interview, like I've always been a little reluctant to deal with the angels. And I think that a lot of that has to do with my Catholic upbringing, to be honest. I always saw them as punishers and judges, and I never had a very positive connection to angels due to the Catholic Church. So one of the ways that was a very low barrier of entry for the angels was through numbers, because at the time I was studying numerology and I was really into it. Like I love numerology, especially evolutionary and classic numerology. So that was a way for them to start communicating with me and start building a level of trust that was not going to automatically put up my walls. And it's interesting because since I wrote The Divine Practice of Angel Numbers, which, as I said, is a relatively new book, it's only been out for a couple of years, I've had quite a few conversations with readers who also came from Catholic backgrounds And they said that one of the things they had noticed that they were more drawn to the numbers than they were to other practices for the exact same reasons. So I always say the angels always know where our soft points are so that they can tread kindly, gently, and compassionately while still letting us know that they are there, they are with us, and that they're not judging us in any way, shape, or form.
That's beautiful, because I think that's loving of them, because not everyone could handle having 12 of them in their kitchen, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, can't imagine that. So what are some of the ways you use angel numbers? Because everything I do, like if I even put I have a herbal heat bag, right? And my honey picks on me. And when I put it in the microwave, I do 333. And he goes, babe, you can do 313 and all this. I go, no, 333 is good. Like everything I love to do is by that. Passwords, I have different angel numbers I use. How do you incorporate the numbers into your life and into your understanding, so some of our listeners can learn from that, from you?
So I don't deliberately use them. I think that's one of the things that I have learned is I actually don't deliberately use them because they are messages. So one of the things that happens with our brain is if we're deliberately setting ourselves up to pattern recognize, then we can miss stuff. There was this great study about, where they had a gorilla run through a basketball game and only like 25% of the participants saw the gorilla run through this game because people's minds were focused on where the basketball was. So they weren't looking for that disruptor. So when I started working with the angels, they were very, very specific in being aware, elevate my conscious awareness, but not program the conscious mind to miss the message. So I don't deliberately work with them, but I am on the lookout for them.
Yeah, because I get them all the time. Like, and one of the things I do is I always, it's just how I'm wired, I always say, thank you, I see you. Thank you for the message, right? So it's constant for me in different ways. So is that what you mean? And then do you tap in to define the message? Like this morning, it was 555, just as I was working on a sacred project. And so I said, thank you, Divine. Is there any clarity that I need working on this project? And so do you have conversations like that? Is that what you mean, is listen when you see them?
So one of the things that I am on the lookout for is just if I see a pattern. So if I see a repetitive number, it doesn't have to be just the ones that I wrote about in my book. And that's my point of we have become very conditioned through social media to look for things like 1111, 111, 333, 555, 777, 888. But the messages can sometimes not be quite so obvious. And I'll give you an example. Like I was working on a project and the number that kept showing up repeatedly was 682. And that number showed up like 5 times and then it ended up on the contract. And I was like, oh, so this is important. What's this about? So then I went back and I always do my numerology first. So I looked at the 6 and I was like, okay, so the main theme of this is definitely going to be, relationships and heart-centered, and how is this going to deal for me personally? 8 is about the material world, and it was a contract about physical material things plus compensation with money, and 2, that partnership number. So the fact that I had these numbers lined up and I knew which angels were playing a part in this, plus if I added it up, I got a 7. So I knew who the master angel was for that. Then I knew how they were guiding me through this process. And they were letting me know that because of the fact that I had been very intentional with myself and that I'd done my research, that I was able to create this particular deal and it was going to end up being a very good partnership. So that's how I personally work with the numbers, as opposed to like setting prices as angel numbers or, deliberately setting my clock or alarm to go off at a certain time. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like, I know people do it and it brings them great comfort. It's a way of connection. I'm not saying don't do that, but that's just not how I personally work with them. And that's not how the angels taught me.
I think that's beautiful though, because it gives us, so many of us, insights. And I'm a big numerology fan. I get a monthly forecast for God 6 years. So I've always been drawn to it. So I love how you look for other numbers other than the ones, as you said, that social media is like the numbers like 333. I love how you did the research with numerology and then pull that into the angel messages. So I love that idea. So that's something that speaks to my heart. So I'm going to start being more aware so that I can tap into that wisdom too. So I hear this a lot, just owning Aspire magazine. A lot of questions come up of, well, what's a guardian angel and what's an archangel and what's the difference and who should I call on? And what's your thoughts on that whole topic?
So for me, the way I kind of relate to the different types of angels, because there's so many different types of angels, there are so many different angelic frequencies, and they all do different things. I see the archangels like the major arcana in the tarot, and that is that they're broader, conceptual, philosophical guides that we go to. The guardian angels are more like the minor arcana, and they tend to deal more with our day-to-day experience, the little boring parts of our life that none of us find too glamorous, though we probably did before social media, but no one finds their life glamorous anymore. So it's one of those things where the guardians come in and they remind us that our magic, the magic that we have and the miracles that unfold in our life are in the quiet, boring, mundane parts of our existence. And they're in there constantly making sure that our day flows, or that we have the right conversation with the right people, or that the right email goes to the right person, or that when you go to the grocery store, that particular nut milk that you have to have because you're allergic to everything else, there's only one left on the shelf. So that's the kind of stuff that your guardian angels deal with.
Oh, I love this. I have a question. Something you said before that, when the 12 angels were in the kitchen, did you say you saw a little light about them?
Yes, there was a small light that was glowing around them, like their whole bodies. They were a bit luminescent in that respect.
Was there a color to the light?
It was probably just more of a goldy tinge, to be honest. I wasn't paying close attention because I thought I was going crazy. So, I wasn't going, wow, 12 angels, let me photograph this in my mind forever. Because never in my wildest dreams did I think in that moment I would have to keep describing that. Moment to people again and again and again. So I'm going to say it was golden, but that was just at a very quick, fraction of a second glance, and the sun was coming through the windows at the time, and I do live in the desert, so in the middle of the day everything looks a little golden.
Well, my question is, do you ever see it since then? Do you ever see a glow or an aura? Because you said you can see, I think you just said it as energy.
So the angels now, like when they show up, no, they don't have a glow around them anymore. So that's not how I see them. They just rock up as people. Usually Archangel Michael comes to me dressed as a pirate, so he definitely doesn't have a glow about him. So I think it was just, and I'm not even sure initially when I first saw them they had a glow. I think it was there to let me know that they weren't invaders in my home.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Well, we're going to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk more about the angels, because I know some people have thoughts of, is it safe? Should I do that? Don't open the doors. And I see the angels as just this vibe from a vibration point of view. I feel it's such a high vibration. I only feel love, but I understand everyone has different thoughts. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I am with Leeza Robertson. You can learn more at LeezaRobertsonWrites.com. Be sure to check out her library of extraordinary books. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
You don't have to identify as a creative to reap the benefits of a daily creativity practice. Even 15 minutes a day offers a wealth of benefits to your emotional, physical, social, and spiritual well-being. As a natural-born teacher and facilitator, Cindy Winsell consciously merges her 35 years as an educator with her in-depth training as a certified creative depth coach, certified Zentangle teacher, soul collage facilitator, journey circles facilitator, and moon circles guide to empathically and joyfully guide women to tap into their creativity through expressive arts as tools for healing and transformation. Cindy works with women ready to step into creative exploration as a tool for healing. Together, you will develop your own exciting insights and approaches that will help you awaken to possibility. Visit cindywinsell.com for creative classes and more.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Leeza Robertson, and we're talking about angels, angel numbers, and so much more. So, Leeza, in your work in all the research you've done and for your books, what's your thoughts on if working with the angels is safe?
From a secular viewpoint, absolutely. From a religious viewpoint, I can understand the trepidation. So religion teaches us that we are meant to be fearful of anything that is beyond the human realm. Religion tells us that we should be fearful of beings that are considered higher or more elevated than we are. But that is just a philosophy in order to manipulate and control us. And once we move outside of religious dogma, and I'm not talking about personal faith here, so I really want to be very mindful of that. I'm not talking about faith. You can have any belief you want, but I am talking specifically about religious construct and dogma. There is a level of control that goes through all religions, and I have studied all of them, both present and ancient, that does want to talk about hierarchies and being mindful that humans know their place. But when we're outside of religion, when we let those go away, but we keep our faith, but we drop some of those beliefs a little bit, we learn that the reason that fear is there is because majority of religions don't want us to have access to our own good, because then what purpose does religion have? So I think, like, if people are a little scared, they need to ask themselves, where did that fear come from and what belief is it tied to? Because we underestimate how indoctrinated we are in religious dogma, even if we don't go to church or we haven't been practicing as adults. So I think that's where a lot of that fear comes from.
Oh, I think so too, because a lot of my fears around all this, even fears around tarot way back, I'm 60 now, so way back in my 20s and 30s, was because of what I was taught in the church. And for me, the angels are, I don't know, it's a place of peace, place of joy. I also sometimes get like they're almost like a fun energy. That's how I feel when I'm tapping into some of them. Some of the things we talked about at the beginning in your intro is something that you call daily angelic tasks. What is that?
The daily angelic tasks are things that just keep us connected to a specific angel if we want to work with them over a set amount of time. So in the divine practice of angel numbers, I have broken up our work with a specific angel over a month period. And one of the things that I have done in that is set up like a little bubble of energy in that month where you just work specifically with that angel. And the reason that that's important initially when we're building contact, and this isn't just for angels, this is for any guide that we want to work with, is so that we can learn how they communicate with us. Do they communicate with us in a knowing, in a feeling, in a color, in a sound, through numbers? Do specific conversations pop up? Does a specific song pop up? So when we're doing these little touch points or these little daily exercises, or these little angelic rituals, we build a bridge of communication that we know for sure when this happens, it's this angel, or when this happens, it's this guide. And doing it over 30 days helps us keep that connection open and flowing so that we can really establish a solid foundation and know that if we do this, then this angel will pop up. And when that angel pops up, we get this particular response. And it's one of the things that when I used to do angel circles, I used to do channeling events, and I would have 60, 100, 120 people there. And one of the questions I always got asked was, well, I don't know how they're communicating with me. So that's one of the reasons I put this practice into the year of angel guidance, to help people, because it's important if you want to build a relationship with your angelic guides.
No, I love that. I love the idea of working for 1 month with just one angel. So that really speaks to me. I want to go back. I have a question for you. I'm really curious. Only 3 times in my life, in two, well, now that I think of it, 2 of them, I was not yet on the spiritual path. I've been on this path for 31 years, out of my 60 years. Has anyone who has experienced, I guess, divine support from an angel ever said that they saw a glow, like twice? The 2 episodes I'm thinking of were at critical points in my life. I was really down and low, and a building glowed, Leeza. It was glowing. I was sobbing driving down the road, and I still think of it to this day. And I just pulled in that driveway. It was an old Victorian house. And I can't believe I did this, but I just walked in the front door. And there was 3 doors, one to the right, one down a long hallway, which was straight ahead, and 2 French doors. And I opened the 2 French doors. There was a fireplace, a couch, and a chair, an overstuffed chair. And there was another door in that room. And I sat down, and a woman walked in about 5 minutes later. She had just left that room and it was empty. So imagine her surprise when some woman she doesn't know is sitting in her room. And I said to her at that time, 30-something years ago, if you make me leave, I won't make it through the night. But here's the point of the story, Leeza. She was a behavioral psychologist that specialized in child trauma. And there's no accidents. I still believe to this day, she still believes it. In fact, we just reconnected after 32 years. I called her to thank her for that time in my life. I believe I was being divinely supported. Do they ever show up in that kind of way?
Absolutely. I definitely have experienced that. Some of my clients have experienced the glow, but more of them have experienced like just this nudge or this just knowing, like, go here, look here, this is the right one. I definitely have seen the glow for sure. And I used to joke about how I used to take the angels shopping with me. When my my wife had a compacted gallbladder for a while, and she wanted to heal it naturally, and I was like, okay. So I would used to, tell the angels, okay, we have to go shopping today, point me, show me what I need to get for her so that we can heal this. And as I walked through the supermarkets, like certain vegetables or certain products would just glow, and I would pick them up, and that would be what we would do. And sure enough, we did heal that. So yes, the glow is definitely a thing for some people.
Yeah, and I'm curious because both times, so I'm curious if this color in your experience relates to a certain angel, because both times it was like the softest tealish blue, but very iridescent, very shimmery, almost like an energy pulsing around the building, right? And is there a color that's related to an angel? Because I'm always curious, because both times the color was exactly the same.
I think that's a personal thing. And I think that you would have to, like, if that happened again, I would actually ask, okay, so who is this?
I feel it was Michael. I've always been connected to Michael. So in my mind, that's who it was. I was curious, like, because my instinct says Archangel Michael. But some people have, I've told the story too. They're like, I've never seen colors, but like you, I also get the knowings and nudges that sometimes don't make sense. But I always follow them now because I've built up my trust relationship with, I call them my divine support team, right? I have Native American energy there and the angels. I think once you start building that relationship, that's why I think that book, A Year of Angel Guidance, and that process that you said, work with one angel a month, I think that's so powerful because I've learned to trust what I receive and I act on it. I no longer go, well, that's not real. What are you, crazy to do that? Like that self-talk that comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. Building that trust is really important. And again, trust is something I hear all the time. When I was doing those channeling circles, I would have so many people come up to me and go, I would love to do that, but I don't trust an energy to enter my body like that. I don't trust to let myself go to make space for something to come through. So it is like, but that's how we live our life. We live our life in relationship with trust of things we have no control over, even in the material world. Like, we actually have no control over what happens to us once we step out our door. In fact, we don't have much control over what happens to us when we're inside of our house. So it is one of those things of, this is the lesson of what it means to be human, is to have trust in things that we cannot control. And the angels are just another part of that.
So beautiful. And one of the other things you had brought up was altar work. And so is that like, I have little mini altars around my house. So how do you use it?
So the altar work is very much part of my priestess work, which is what I predominantly do. Sometimes I call the angels in, but mostly I do a lot of priestessing work. So I use altars for healing. I use altars for prayer. I use altars for spell work. I use altars for removing blocks or points of resistance. I use altars with my clients. I use altars in group programs. So altars play a big part of my devotional practice because to me, they facilitate an energy. They give you an intentional space in which to create a portal for creation. So even when I'm writing a book, like I will often set up an altar for the book at the beginning. And as I'm drawing to the end, I'll set up another altar to make sure that the book is finished in the right way, that all the information is in there. And if it's not, then the people who are also looking at this material, they will come back and that we will collaborate in a beautiful way. And when the books are in edit, I put another altar up. So it is one of those things where altars are such a fundamental piece of my spiritual practice that I had to have them in this book. Like there was no way I can write a book about anything anymore without having an altar practice. But one of the things that my clients tend to tell me is that the altar actually gives them something tangible, because the angels themselves are not tangible. So being able to have a tangible space for devotional work or connection work or manifestation work allows us to feel like it's real and elevates that sense of trust.
Oh yeah, that's how I feel about it. You and I may use it in different ways, but something you said that I loved, it's an intentional space. And that's what it feels like to me. Leeza, before we go, we're going to take our next and final break, come back. I want to dive into that too, because altar is another triggering word. And when I try to share with clients, like create an intentional space, and I use the word altar, they're like, And then when I explain what it is, they soften a little more. So we'll be back in a moment. I'm with Leeza Robertson of LeezaRobertsonWrites.com. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Are you ready to create and live the divinely guided life intended for you? A life not bound by your past or tied to a specific future. A life beyond your fears and what-ifs that is filled with limitless possibilities. Experiencing an empowered life of fulfillment, joy, and connection is possible when you embrace a spiritual, solutions-centered lifestyle. Through her transformational teachings and programs, Lisa Hermata, empowered life view guide, life transformation mentor, and founder of Love is the Seed, empowers women to break the barriers holding them back from living their sacred truth, so they can find greater connection with their inner wisdom and their divine source to co-create a life that brings peace, joy, and self-acceptance. Visit loveistheseed.com for positive guidance and valuable resources to support you in embracing an empowered life view.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at EJI.org.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for circling up with me, my special guest, Leeza Robertson. So, Leeza, I have little altars, as you said. I think of them as intentional spaces every time, and sometimes I change them up. It depends. Like different moon cycles, I'll change them. But for me, there are moments that when I'm walking by them, it brings me back. Like whatever that altar may be, I have a family altar. It brings me back into that moment. Do you find a lot of people, just like working with the archangels, that are triggered by the word altar?
Actually, no, I've never actually had a client or a student who has ever been resistant to altar work. And I don't know whether it's because I come from it from a very priestess position. So usually when people come into my space as a paid client, or they're in one of my student programs, they've usually had a bit of a taste of how I teach and what I do. So I can't say I've ever had any pushback. If anything, that's the one thing they're really jazzed about, because they can make it pretty. They could put their crystals and their cards and their pictures, and they can create this beautiful piece of artwork and decor. So they tend to get excited about that. So no, I haven't had any pushback on that one.
Yeah, when I do, like if I do a Zoom call for one of my communities and I say it, they're like, can you identify what an altar is? All my private clients, they're either, I just noticed this in the last 5 years, a lot of them on the goddess, a pagan path. I attract a lot of that. Everybody on my team follows that path. And so for my inner circle and my private clients and group programs, it's more accepted. But I think the question was more, I have like family members and all that. They're like, oh, that looks so beautiful. I go, oh, that's one of my altars. And then you get the little side eye, like, what is she talking about? How can she have an altar? Right. So any of that in the mainstream, or is that just my family?
Well, it might be an American thing, to be honest. It might be cultural. So
that's true.
I lived in Asia for a while, and everyone in Asia has altars.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
In a lot of Mediterranean homes, we have altars. So I think it could be just a cultural thing.
I think so too. And it's such a part of my life for the last decade that I don't even think of it. In fact, our granddaughter, she's grown up with my little altar. So she has a little altar at a house. She'll come over and go, Amma, I think this would be a beautiful addition to this, whatever altar she's looking at in my office, at my home. I go, McKenna, whatever you add with love to my altar is going to be beautiful. But I wanted to know to create those sacred spaces for herself, which she does. She has them in a bedroom. She has a larger crystal collection than I do. And she can actually remember the names of them all when I can't. So it's like bringing up the next generation to be open, right? That's like my vision is I have a 23-year-old grandson and a 12-year-old granddaughter. It's like, I want them to grow up knowing that they're always connected to the divine, whatever words they use to describe that. And they just have to trust and allow and surrender. What other guidance would you give to someone that wants to begin a relationship with the angels? I know you already shared about the working with one for a month. Any other tips or strategies for those who are like, oh, I want to do this?
I think what's important, and this kind of ties into what we were just talking about with the altars too, is that this work is in our blood. This is stuff our ancestors were doing. I'm not exactly sure at what point humans, where in modern human society, we lost contact with the gods, the goddesses, the angels, and the ancestors. But it's not something that is new. And I feel like that's super, super important for people to understand. This is not a new practice. This is a form of remembering. This is a teaching that people within your family line had. It's already in your blood. That's why you're feeling the nudge. That's why you're open to this, because there's a piece of you that wants to come back and wants to remember and deeply needs to connect. So I would trust that nudge. I would trust that feeling. And I would also be open, I'd also open up to, well, who are the angels in your cultural background or cultural heritage that feel the most friendly or approachable? Because sometimes the guardian angels might be a better gateway than jumping straight into the archangels. So just get a little general feel for where you are, kind of like, where do you come from? What's your cultural heritage? And then trust that nudge, because this is our work. This is the work that we have always done since the beginning of humankind. We have done this work. We have connected to divinity. We just lost our way at some point, but now we're coming back.
Yeah, it's so true. And and even a connection with nature too. So for me, I follow the moon cycles in life and business. And since I began honoring that, I'd say that's probably been a decade. There's so much more peace in my life. It's like I'm flowing with the flow of life instead of what I used to do with ego, right? Like I am going to swim against the current and get things done faster. And I used to actually believe that too, that, I could do it a better way. Working with the divine and whatever that word means to you has been so liberating, so freeing. So I'm so more aligned with joy now. And it sounds like that you've discovered that for yourself too. It's a easier way to navigate life.
So much easier. Like you're not exhausted anymore. If you are exhausted, it's in a good way because things moved naturally and you had an adrenaline rush that was exciting and joyful and filled your heart, as opposed to feeling like your life essence has literally been sucked out of you by the vampires of capitalism and structure and society and modernity. So yeah, this natural remembering of where we came from and who we are and how we're connected to the web of everything is actually really good for your mental, emotional, and physical health.
It's everything. As someone that's been an entrepreneur for 31 years, I can still go back to that first business. And I wasn't on the spiritual path. I had a lot of wounds, and I built that business. And yes, I won Entrepreneur of the Year for the state of Mass. I won all kinds of business awards, but at what cost? I was in the masculine, which I see this now. I was in pushing, striving, chasing, and yes, abundance came. And yes, from the outside looking in, it was success, but my soul was dying. And it wasn't until I finally said, enough is enough. This can't be how we're meant to exist in the world, that I flipped the script and started with nature and going inward. And I'm like, now everyone's like, how can you run 5 media brands that work 4 days a week and take 13 weeks off a year? I go, because I go with the flow. I align, I trust, I surrender, and I take inspired action. It's like living in alignment with my divine source. That's what it feels like to me. And like you said, it's so much easier and peaceful.
It really is. And I think like to me, that's the great joke that the angels love to share with us. The joke is you can do it the human way, or you can do it the remembered way. And the remembered way is going to be happier, joyful, and more easy. But the human way is going to be much, much harder, and you're not going to feel great about it at the end.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I have more energy, joy, peace at 60 than I did at 40. Because this 20-year journey of going inward and living from the inside out, and trusting in the divine, has brought me so much peace, abundance, happiness. So thank you, Leeza, for joining me today. Thank you for the work you're doing in the world. I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. I want to invite everyone to visit Leeza, and that's Leeza Robertson Writes.com. Grab a copy of many of her books, learn more about the sacred offering she brings to the world. And Leeza, I want to thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy.
Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.